The following video is going to be what little information I could find by just looking shit up. Now, when I do that, you have to work really hard not to look things up sometimes. So here we go. The title of the video is going to have a bunch of keywords in it. It'll match up with if you just finished watching someone lie to you, and let's move forward. John McAfee used to be a hardcore hacker, or at least a good geek, who would not lead people astray, but he was running for president at one time and lied. He lied saying that there was an E911 chip that gives the government access to your phone's location and microphone. There is something like it, but that's not what was going on here. And he said it was subject to being activated. People love using the word activate and FEMA and a bunch of other things to scare you. And I'm not talking about the news saying that FEMA was activated because there was a tornado. I'm talking about people using the word FEMA and activated and other words like this because they know that it will trigger people's spidey sense where they go batshit crazy. Any presidential alert involving the E911 system, the emergency 911 system, otherwise known as enhanced 911, will turn this on. So if you're sent an alert, instead of calling 911, it tracks you and listens to you. That's John McAfee lying for trying to be elected president one time. Many users, however, have disabled alerts because they were opt-in at one time, because they override silent settings on their phones, being of limited relevance to them, and or it's just an emergency broadcast test. It's only a test. The thing is, the system has to be tested, but do we need to be tested? I'll give you my opinion at the end of the video, but let's talk about October 3rd, 2018 at 2:18 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, East Coast Time. As part of a national periodic test, the NPT, of the Emergency Alert System, EAS, there was the first national test of a mandatory or presidential alert, as it was called at that time, a message that was expected to reach 75% of cell phones. It may or may not have because people were able to opt out. But this is the first time it happened. Now, before that, what would happen is the president would get on national television or on the radio in extremely old days and tell you what a depression is and what just happened. Or get on national television and tell you the United States has been attacked and 2 buildings just fell down. Unless it's something really severe like that, we're not supposed to get these kind of messages. And then there was January 13th, 2018. Probably the reason for such a test. A false alert of an inbound missile to hit Hawaii was mistakenly issued through EAS and WEA by the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. An employee made an error during a routine internal system test that wasn't supposed to be transmitted. Some of these things, if they're transmitted, that noise you hear at the beginning orders every transceiver on the planet just about, okay, all of them in the United States, to rebroadcast and overwrite everything. It totally interrupts everything because the emergency is assumed to have the value that means it's allowed to interrupt a $1 billion goddamn Super Bowl, okay? That's the way it is. It's not really that expensive, is it? Please tell me it isn't. Now, what about this year? Well, like I said, it was October 3rd, 2018. And then there's another one that was done that was an accident, a false alert earlier. Might have been a reason to test everything and knock loose any bugs. It's annoying to hear these messages where it says, this is not a message that there's a real, occurrence here. I know that. But now the new one that's going to come out this year, you won't be able to opt out of. It will play back. It goes through TV, radio, because that's the FCC, and through the telephone system, supposedly through FEMA. The timing. Here we go. This will be October 4th, 2023, and maybe October 11th if October 4th has to be skipped. TV, radio, and over currently just cell phones at 2:18 p.m. East Coast time and 2:20 p.m. East Coast time. The first one will be FCC national or presidential CMAS or WEA or whatever alphabet soup name it has. Phone alerts. Those can go out in a mass bundle, dumped, and they're just rebroadcast. They're just repeated. It doesn't choke the network. Shut up. Next, 220, supposedly FEMA, it will go through as radio and TV NPT alerts, just like happened August 11th, 2021 at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time back then. Same time. It's instead of being August 11th, it'll be October 11th or October 4th. I'm going to include Jade Helm in the title in the video along with Trump. This is a Trump era change. There was even fear that Trump would use it as a way to aggrandize himself by being part of an alert where, when he was told, literally no one can shut it off unless they opt out. That got him excited. That's bad. January 13th, 2018 false alerts made people less believing in this equipment. Now, how do you fix a problem where everybody's scared of it? Do you turn it off and refuse to use it again? Which you're going to see a lot of people in the comment sections on this subject talk about turning it off. Yes, turn off every bit of any warning we can get. Because the people who suggest that are fucknuts. Or fix the problem as best we can and then test the crap out of it. I remember when these emergency alerts would go out at past midnight, so nobody would hear them. Only the radio broadcaster, receiver, and ham operators and idiots like me who were up way too late watching, MTV way late at night when I wasn't supposed to be awake. I was supposed to be asleep. Would see these. Emergency alert broadcast. This is only a test. You'll be told where to go in a minute. We used to make jokes about it. Now, aside from John McAfee, a formerly respected computer hacker, lying, or more accurately just being wrong, he was just wrong. He didn't know what he's talking about. He made a mistake. He was confusing one thing, Edward Snowden level shit that we know is real, with this thing that honestly had nothing to do with it. So, is there a E911, enhanced 911 chip in your cell phone, or ability, or something? Well, just like when you dial 911, and in most cases it will give up your GPS location, you can disable this. It's in the flags register. You're going to have to read the manual. No, there isn't anything where somebody can call you and get your data. I mean, it can be done, but it's not this. But this is a Trump era change. Was it really caused by him? No. Were people afraid he would exploit it and use it for his own personal gain because he was that crazy? Yeah. Absolutely. But anyway, let's move on. Does it give up your microphone, your phone's location, or your video camera to the government? Says every soccer mom who's on Facebook and Twitter, who's using TikTok, including TikTok users who are sitting there running a very obvious, we used to call them Instagram filter, that makes it to where they don't look or sound like they're from a foreign country trying to scare you. Well, that's just crazy talk, Laptop. Yes, but one of you down below in the comments screaming, I'm a Christian truther patriot, isn't going to sound like a fucking bot. And say shit that, for some reason, invokes China. A lot of them. When it wasn't on topic. But anyway, let's move on. Google your patriot, blood of Christ, truther, moon, solar, or lunar eclipse, false doomsday, refuge privacy, cell system overload, communication outage, stealing your info, mass hysteria, dogs and cats living together, YouTubers if you want. Most of them are on TikTok right now. Thank God most of them ran away to TikTok because they can get away with more, and TikTok is run by the Chinese government. Let's Snowden this shit in a minute. But anyway, these used to be called presidential alerts. And coincidentally, after people were afraid Trump was going to exploit this, they changed it. But anyway, but nothing to see here. Just move along, move along. Do you shut off your phone? I recommend some of you do that as an experiment to see if it will cache or record the message, because it should be a message you can get later, and when you turn it on, it gives you the alert. If you have your cell phone off and there's a massive problem going on and you don't know about it, you turn on your phone and it should give you it after you get off a phone after you get off of a airplane because you're in airplane mode. It should give you the alert when you land. I recommend that as a test. One of you out of a couple of dozen, or each brand of phone, I recommend that. Should you put your phone in the microwave to test to see if it can get through? Okay, if you put your phone in a situation where it can't communicate, we need to have that wording, communication. Somebody put that on a t-shirt. If it can't communicate with a tower, it might try to go into high power mode. Normally they're like 5 milliwatts, but if you put them in a Faraday cage or whatever, and they can't detect the signal, they'll jack up the current and use more battery power, desperately trying to communicate because it's assuming it's slightly out of range, and a cell phone has a priority. Constantly getting information to Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Apple and Microsoft and Google. But also the other purpose is it's supposed to constantly be able to communicate with the networks so that you can call for help. The Federal Communication Commission said that telephone companies can use a lot of bandwidth and have all the cell phone space they want, but they have to make it part of the public good that you can dial 911 and you can get alerts when shit hits the fan. And if you put that in a Faraday cage, unless you pull out the battery, it's just going to drain the battery more because it's going to try harder to communicate. It's not going to give up easily. Which, if you're not aware of it, is the high-powered mode that allowed some cell phones, very few but a few, to communicate while in the air in an airplane that has been tested by people who've done this experiment. It's not just a meme from those kind of truthers. That is actually something that can be done. So now we're going to get to the next part. People do not trust cell phones. How do we solve that? Okay, there is a kind of cell phone you can get. I'll try to leave a link below. I can't find it right now. That's a cell phone you can get from like literally Walmart or Kmart or whatever it is, one of those marts. That's a really cheaply made, technically legally valid cell phone. It's a real cell phone, but it doesn't have any smartphone features. It's called a dumb phone, at least in the comment section. And some of them are the big button-looking things that looks like a kid should have it, and they're wedge-shaped. And they're sometimes called Volksphones. It's a German word, but it's, people's phones. Sounds very communist. But they're just cell phones, we used to call them party phones, that only do telephone communication. They don't have any other features. And the thing about them, along with a bunch of other companies, if you want to look hard enough, is that they have a battery you can pull out, and some of them even have a slide switch to disable the battery. They're used for intermittent usage, not continuously on, and they don't have any smart features. They will almost all have a GPS capability, because virtually all cell phones have to have GPS, so that if you call 911 and you can't communicate your location, if you can't speak, they can get the GPS data from the call, because it comes through part of the call signal for 911. That's the only time it's supposed to do it. And honestly, in every test I can find, it's the only time it ever spits out your location. As for the microphone being on, if you called them, the mic's on because you're calling them. They're not spying on you. And yes, I used to work at a phone company, and I would get people on the phone saying, "How can you hear me?" Because you're on a phone and you're talking to me? And the dumb would come over them where they realize they just said something incredibly paranoid and stupid. And then they get mad and hang up. Anyway, if you're worried about any of this, don't put your phone in a bag that retains heat while it's trying to blast a signal out to try to get through what it thinks is 20 extra miles of distance to get to a cell tower. You can put it in a metal mesh bag or just turn it off or pull the battery. But don't worry about FEMA coming after you. And again, I have to point this out. A bunch of you truther, patriot, you're evangelicals, you're not really Christians. Sorry, I got to say it. You believe in the end of the world and want to cause it to happen. Some of these liars will tell you all sorts of things to do that might catch your phone on fire, might hurt you, and don't do you any good, and don't work. If anybody wants, I'll do a video on all that. But anyway, again, October this year, they're going to do some tests, just like they did, like, August, years ago. And this was started by Trump, not by Biden. But I'll put Biden and Trump in the video title, if that'll get you to listen for 5 seconds to somebody, or in this case, for 15 minutes, to somebody who's trying to explain to you, you're being lied to by TikTok. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. You'll need it.